So I, female, 27, feel like I just completely destroyed my relationship with my sister-in-law over Sunday dinner, and I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here. My husband, male, 29, thinks I went too far, but also won't really explain why everyone's acting like I committed some horrible crime. Am I the idiot for telling my sister-in-law she doesn't have kids, so maybe she should stop giving me parenting advice? Okay, so, context. My husband and I have this 4-month-old baby who's been kind of a nightmare lately. Like, he's healthy and everything, but he's so fussy and cranky all the time, especially in the evenings. I've been trying everything, different bottles, burping techniques, holding positions, you name it. I'm basically Googling, why won't my baby stop crying at 3 a.m. every night, like some kind of desperate lunatic. We do Sunday dinner at my in-laws every week, and my sister-in-law Sarah and her husband always come. She's nice, I guess. But she's one of those people who always has suggestions about everything. Like, everything. How to organize your closet, what products to use for cleaning, why you should try this restaurant instead of that one. You know the type. So yesterday we're at dinner, and the baby starts getting fussy during the meal. Nothing unusual, just his normal evening crankiness. But Sarah immediately starts, I don't know how to describe it, hovering. She's watching how I'm holding him, making these little noises, asking if I've tried this or that. At first, it was just small stuff, asking if I'd tried holding him more upright after feeding, or maybe try a different burping position, or that sometimes they get gassy when the bottle angle is wrong. And I have tried all this stuff. I've tried literally everything the pediatrician suggested, everything on the baby websites, everything my mom told me. But she keeps going with these gentle little suggestions, like I'm some clueless idiot who hasn't thought of the most basic things. Then she starts talking about reflux, how the baby might have reflux, and that's why he's so fussy in the evenings, and there are these specific ways to hold him that can help, and maybe I should try keeping him upright for longer after feeds. She's explaining all this stuff like she's some kind of expert. I'm getting more and more irritated because honestly, I'm tired. I'm so freaking tired I can barely think straight most days. And here's Sarah telling me all the things I should be doing differently, like I haven't been trying to figure this out for months. But the final straw was when she started talking about how she's seen this before and has ideas that might help. Like, seen this where? So I finally snapped. I told her I appreciate the input, but she doesn't actually have kids, so maybe let me figure this out with people who actually know what they're talking about. Everyone just stopped talking. Sarah just stopped talking mid-sentence and went white. She stared at me for a few seconds, then quietly got up and started getting her purse and coat. Her husband was asking what's wrong and what happened, but she just shook her head and wouldn't look at anyone. They left before dessert. Didn't say goodbye or anything. My husband barely talked to me the rest of the night, and this morning when I asked what the hell that was about, he just said, I really crossed a line and there's stuff I don't know. But then he won't tell me what stuff. He just keeps saying I need to apologize and that Sarah was only trying to help. But was she though? Because it felt more like she was criticizing everything I was doing with my baby. And yeah, maybe I was harsh, but I'm running on 3 hours of sleep and I'm doing my best here. I don't need someone without kids telling me I'm doing everything wrong. I mean, I know she and her husband have been married for 6 years or whatever, but they just don't have kids. So how is she an expert on baby stuff? Where would she have seen this before? Something about the way she said it made me think there was more to it, but I didn't know what. I keep going back and forth on this. Part of me feels bad because she obviously got really upset, but another part of me is she was overstepping, right? You don't just tell new parents they're doing everything wrong when you've never even had a baby yourself. My mother-in-law called this morning and said I should think about why Sarah seemed to know so much about babies and maybe ask my husband what he hasn't told me about Sarah's background. That just made me more confused because what hadn't he told me? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too tired to think straight. The baby was up every 2 hours again last night and I feel like I can barely focus on anything. But seriously, am I the asshole here? Because everyone's acting like I said something terrible when all I did was point out that she doesn't have kids. It's not like that's some horrible secret. It's just a fact. Edit 1. Since everyone's asking, no, I didn't know my sister-in-law used to be a postpartum doula. My husband conveniently forgot to mention that until after I posted this. Apparently, reading through what I wrote made him realize how confused I was about everyone's reactions, so he finally told me she worked with new moms and babies for like 2 years before she stopped, which honestly makes me feel worse, but also more confused about why no one told me this before. Number 2, after learning about the doula thing, I started thinking more about everyone's reactions and my husband's weird secrecy. I'm starting to think there might be more to this story that my husband hasn't told me. To those asking about fertility issues, he keeps saying stuff like, "It's complicated and it's not my place to share," but won't actually explain what I'm missing. I'm honestly getting more frustrated with him than with my sister-in-law at this point. Now for the first update. I found out my sister-in-law has been secretly paying our bills, and I'm horrified to Xnen. You were right about there being more to this story. Things got so much worse, and now I feel like a complete piece of shit human being. So, after reading through all your comments yesterday, I felt absolutely horrible about what I said to my sister-in-law, Sarah. Like, genuinely sick to my stomach. A bunch of you were right that I was way too harsh, and the doula thing? Yeah. My husband finally told me about that after he read my post and realized how confused I was about everyone's reactions. Anyway, I decided to send her some flowers this morning. Nothing fancy, just like an "I'm sorry I was such a bitch" arrangement from one of those online places. So I'm on the website at like 7 a.m. Baby was up again, obviously. Enter all my info, put in my debit card number, and declined. Which was weird because I thought we had money in that account. So I log into our bank app to check the balance, and that's when I see it. I usually just glance at the current balance when I'm worried about money, but now I'm actually looking at the transaction details for the first time in months. And these random deposits. Like every few weeks, there's money being transferred in from an account I don't recognize. I'm scrolling through the transaction history going back months, and there's this pattern. Whenever we were short on something, rent, daycare, groceries, mysteriously, there'd be a deposit a day or two later, always just enough to cover what we needed. And the account name, it's Sarah and her husband's joint account. I stared at my phone for like 20 minutes trying to process this. Like, what the hell? How long has this been going on? Why didn't my husband tell me? So I call our landlord because I remember being stressed about rent a few weeks ago. I'm thinking maybe I can figure out if we're actually behind or not. And this guy casually mentions that Sarah called last week to take care of the balance for us. The balance. Like, this is a normal thing that happens. I ask him how long this has been going on, and he tells me she's been making partial payments for us since January. It's been 4 months of my sister-in-law basically paying our rent, and I had no clue. I'm sitting in my car in the grocery store parking lot. I was supposed to be getting formula, just trying not to cry. Because what the fuck? How do you not tell your wife that your sister is paying your bills? How is that a secret you keep? By the time my husband got home from work, I was basically vibrating with anger. Not just about the money thing, but about the lying. Like, how much other stuff has he been hiding from me? I cornered him the second he walked in and just started listing off everything I'd found. The rent payments, the daycare money, the random grocery deposits, all of it. With dates and amounts, because I'd spent the whole day going through our bank statements. He tried to play it down at first, said it wasn't a big deal and Sarah just wanted to help out. But I kept pushing, and eventually he just broke down. Turns out she's been doing this since basically the day our son was born. The medical copays from when I had complications, the daycare deposit when I went back to work, even grocery money when things got tight. She's been quietly covering everything we couldn't handle, and she made him promise not to tell me because she was worried I'd be weird about it. And honestly, she was right. I am weird about it. I feel sick knowing that while I was struggling to figure out how to pay for formula and diapers, my sister-in-law was just silently fixing everything behind my back. But also, I'm furious that my husband let me stress about money for months when apparently Sarah was taking care of everything. Do you know how many nights I lay awake doing math in my head, trying to figure out if we could afford both rent and groceries? And the whole time it didn't even matter because Sarah was going to come in and help us anyway. The worst part is thinking about what I said to her on Sunday. You don't have kids, so maybe stop giving me advice. to someone who's been literally supporting my family for 4 months. Someone who apparently knows enough about babies to work as a doula, but I just dismissed her like she was some random childless busybody. My husband keeps saying she wanted to help, and that's just how she shows love. That she and her husband have all this money saved up, apparently from when they stopped trying to have kids. He was really vague about that part, and she doesn't know what else to do with it. But this feels so messed up. I don't know how to face her now. How do you apologize for being a bitch to someone who's been secretly supporting your entire life? Sorry, I told you to mind your own business about my baby. Thanks for paying my rent. I keep thinking about how she went completely white when I said that stuff about not having kids, and how quickly she left. God, she must have felt so hurt. Here she is trying to help with the baby, probably knowing way more about what she's doing than I do, and I basically told her she had no right to an opinion. I don't even know what to do with this information. Do I call her? Do I pretend I don't know? Do I pay her back somehow? With what money, lol? My husband thinks I should just let it go and maybe mention it casually next time we see her. But that feels wrong too. You can't just casually mention that you know someone's been paying your bills for months. I'm also kind of pissed that apparently everyone in his family knew about this, except me. His mom's weird comment about asking what he hadn't told me about Sarah's background makes so much more sense now. They've all been walking around knowing that Sarah's basically been our financial lifeline, while I've been completely in the dark. This whole thing is just, I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything about my own life anymore. How much other stuff am I clueless about? What else has my husband been hiding because he thinks I can't handle it? And honestly, I'm starting to understand why Sarah knows so much about babies and why everyone reacted so strongly to what I said. If she was a doula, and she's been supporting families with babies financially, of course, she knows what she's talking about. Of course, she'd have suggestions. I basically told an expert to shut up because I was tired and cranky. I feel like such an asshole, but also confused and hurt and angry at my husband for putting me in this position where I said something horrible to someone who's been nothing but generous to us. I don't know. Maybe some of you have been in situations like this, because I honestly have no idea how to fix this or even where to start. Edit 1. Since so many are asking, no, I haven't called her yet. I keep picking up the phone and then putting it down because I literally don't know what to say. Hey Sarah, found out you've been keeping us from being homeless. Sorry I was a bitch about the baby advice. How do you even start that conversation? Edit 2. To those asking about how much money we're talking about, I went through everything again, and it's probably close to $3,000 over the past 4 months. Which, Jesus, that's not just helping out, that's basically covering half our expenses. I feel physically sick thinking about it. Edit 3. Yes, I'm planning to talk to my husband more about the fertility stuff and why they stopped trying. He was really weird about it when I asked and just said, it's complicated and it's not my place to share, but honestly, I'm getting more frustrated with him than anyone else right now. Because how do you hide something this big from your wife? What else don't I know? Now for the second update. You were right that I needed to have a serious conversation with my husband about all the lying. But before I could even process the money thing properly, something way worse happened. And now I'm sitting in a hospital room wondering if my family is completely insane. My sister-in-law Sarah called me yesterday morning, 3 days after I found out about the bills. 3 days of me avoiding her calls because I still didn't know what to say about the whole money situation. But she kept calling and texting, and finally I picked up because, I don't know, guilt, I guess. She was being super sweet on the phone. She said she noticed the baby had a stuffy nose at dinner on Sunday, and she had some ideas that might help. Then she offered to watch him for a couple hours while I ran errands. And here's the thing. Normally I would have said no because I'm weird about leaving him with people, but I felt so guilty about everything. The money stuff, the things I said about her not having kids, all of it. Plus I actually did need to go to the store and the post office and stuff, and dragging a cranky baby around when I'm already exhausted sounded terrible. She kept mentioning that she had some old-fashioned remedies that might help with his congestion. Said something about how people today are afraid to use things that worked for years. I should have paid more attention to that, but honestly, I was just thinking about being able to grocery shop without the baby screaming. So I said yes. Dropped him off at her place around 10 a.m. with his bottles and diaper bag and everything. She seemed really excited to have him, which made me feel even worse about Sunday. I was gone for maybe 2 hours. Groceries, post office, picked up my prescription. When I got back to pick him up, she answered the door looking really pleased with herself. The baby was crying, but it was this weird cry, different from his usual fussy evening thing. More tired sounding, but also kind of weak. I asked if he'd been okay, and she said, "Oh yes, he'd been perfect." Then she gets this look on her face, like she's about to tell me something important. She told me she gave him some of that old remedy she mentioned, just a tiny bit of honey mixed with warm water for his congestion. Said it was amazing how much better he was breathing already. I'm standing there holding my baby thinking, did she just say honey? Did she actually just tell me she gave honey to my 4-month-old baby? I asked honey, and my voice probably sounded weird because she immediately got defensive. She started going on about how people worry too much about things that are only dangerous in huge amounts, that her doula training taught her about real risks versus fake ones, that old remedies worked for centuries before everyone got so scared of everything, that it was just a tiny bit, barely a teaspoon, mixed with water. I'm trying to process this while the baby is making these weird little noises, and I'm thinking about every single thing I've read about botulism, every warning from the pediatrician, every baby website that says no honey before 12 months in all caps. I told her babies can't have honey at all before a year old. She got stubborn and said that's only for large quantities, that her professional training taught her to tell the difference between actual dangers and overblown fears, that a tiny amount mixed with water is completely different from the warnings about large quantities. But here's the thing, there are no warnings about large quantities. The warnings are no honey at all, because botulism spores can be in any amount of honey, and babies can't fight them off until their digestive systems mature. I grabbed the diaper bag and basically ran to my car, called the pediatrician's emergency line while I'm driving, and the nurse tells me to get to the ER immediately, not keep an eye on him or call if he gets worse, immediately. So now I'm in the emergency room, and the doctor is explaining that botulism in babies is serious shit, that even small amounts can cause paralysis and breathing problems, that the baby needs to be monitored for at least 24 hours and probably needs preventive treatment. They put an IV in my 4-month-old baby. Do you know how awful it is to hold down your baby while they put a needle in his tiny little arm because someone decided they knew better than every medical professional who says no honey before 12 months? I called my husband first, obviously. He left work immediately and is on his way. But then I thought I should probably call my brother-in-law too, because, I don't know, let the family know what was happening. Make sure someone told my sister-in-law that her old remedy landed the baby in the hospital. Big mistake. I called my brother-in-law Mark and tried to explain what happened, that Sarah had given the baby honey, that we were in the ER, that the doctor said it was serious. And instead of being concerned or shocked or asking if the baby was okay, he immediately got angry at me. He started accusing me of making it sound worse than it was to make his wife look bad. Said I was being mean about the money situation and looking for ways to make Sarah the villain, that his wife knows more about babies than I do and would never do anything dangerous. I'm sitting in the hospital, holding my baby who has an IV in his arm, and this man is telling me I'm making it up for attention. Then I hear Sarah in the background asking what's wrong, and Mark tells her. And apparently, she grabbed the phone because suddenly she's screaming at me, literally screaming. She called me an ungrateful, terrible mother, said I'm looking for someone to blame for my own parenting mess-ups, that I've been a disaster with this baby since day one, and now I want to make her the bad guy, that after everything she's done for our family, yeah, she brought up the money thing, this is how I repay her, by trying to destroy her reputation over helping a sick baby. She yelled about how I'm just like every other worried millennial parent who believes everything they read on the internet instead of listening to people with actual experience, that her doula training means she knows the difference between real dangers and made-up ones, that she's helped hundreds of families and never had a problem. I tried to interrupt and tell her that the doctor confirmed it was dangerous, but she just kept screaming. Said the doctors are just covering their asses with unnecessary procedures, that I'm weak and terrible and looking for someone else to blame when my baby gets sick. Mark took the phone back and said I should be ashamed of myself for attacking someone who's done nothing but help us. Then, he hung up on me. I'm sitting here in this hospital room at 2 a.m. and I honestly don't know what just happened. My baby is potentially seriously ill because someone gave him something that every single medical authority says is dangerous for babies. And somehow I'm the bad guy for being upset about it. The baby seems okay so far. The doctor says if botulism was going to happen, we'd probably see symptoms within a few hours, but they want to keep monitoring him just in case. He's sleeping now, finally, but I keep checking to make sure he's breathing normally. My husband got here around midnight. He'd been stuck in meetings he couldn't leave immediately and then hit terrible traffic driving across the city. But he's here now and I don't know. He's pissed at Sarah, but also trying to play peacekeeper, saying maybe she really didn't know, maybe her doula training was outdated, maybe we can work this out as a family. But how do you work out someone poisoning your baby and then screaming at you for being upset about it? My mother-in-law called an hour ago. Apparently, word spread through the family, and now there are sides. Some people think Sarah made an honest mistake, and I'm overreacting. Others think giving honey to a baby is insane, regardless of your training. My mother-in-law is in the it's complicated camp, which, honestly, I'm getting really tired of everything being complicated in this family. I keep thinking about what Sarah said about old remedies and how worried modern parents are. These warnings exist for a reason. Babies died from botulism before we knew honey was dangerous. That's why the guidelines exist. But apparently pointing that out makes me ungrateful and mean. I don't know what happens now. Do I just pretend this didn't happen? Do I never let Sarah around my baby again? How do you move forward when someone potentially poisoned your child and then blamed you for being upset about it? The worst part is that I was just starting to feel guilty about being harsh with her. I was planning to apologize for the things I said about her not having kids. And now, I don't know if I can ever trust her judgment again. Maybe some of you have dealt with family members who think they know better than medical advice. Because right now, I feel like I'm living in some alternate reality where protecting your baby from known dangers makes you the villain. Edit. 1. Since people are asking, yes, the baby is okay so far. The doctor says we caught it early enough that even if there were botulism spores, the treatment should prevent any serious symptoms. We'll probably go home later today if everything stays stable. 2. To those asking why I called my brother-in-law instead of just handling it myself, honestly, I thought he'd be concerned and want to know his wife had made a dangerous mistake. I figured he'd talk to her about being more careful. I never expected to get blamed for the whole thing. 3. For everyone asking about my husband's reaction, he's angry but trying not to take sides because it's family. He keeps saying Sarah probably didn't mean to cause harm, but also agrees that giving honey to a baby is dangerous. I think he's just tired of family stuff, but I'm not ready to let this go. 4. Yes, I'm planning to talk to the pediatrician about whether we should limit Sarah's access to the baby going forward. I honestly don't know if I can trust her judgment anymore, professional training or not.